What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo's The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 12, full breakdown and review, and we are still maintaining proper social distancing. This is the way.
This is the way.
And remember, there will be spoilers.
And remember to hit the subscribe button if you like what you see, and hit the bell to be notified of future content.
And do us a favor, share this video with all your friends. I'm sure they would love to see it. Also, by the way, happy Star Wars Day.
May the 4th be with you.
Episode 12, Victory and Death. So the episode starts out, Ahsoka and Rex are still in the medical bay of that Star Destroyer, and the clone troopers begin to cut through the door. Rex is asking how they're going to get out, and Ahsoka says she has an idea, and drawing his pistols, and Ahsoka tells him, set to stun, not to kill any of the troopers.
I absolutely love that, because this is something that the series has done really well, and something that it's done all throughout Clone Wars. They're really trying to humanize the clones. So Ahsoka, she'll mention this a couple of times. She doesn't want to kill them because she doesn't see them as just mindless, like stormtroopers, like what we'll see later on down in, other movies and everything. She doesn't want to just mow them down or kill them.
Yeah, she's got some moral fiber to her.
And that's why they respect her so much. I think she's always treated them as equals, and it shows with the face paint that they put on their helmets and everything else. It's been a wonderful story seeing the clones, especially Rex and Ahsoka's relationship throughout these 7 seasons. And Ahsoka says, wait until the cutting is complete, and then as soon as the cut kind of converge, Ahsoka uses the Force push to push the door against him and, deflects the blaster fire as Rex is stunning, the other clones. Ahsoka tells R7 to find them a way out, and the droid starts closing a couple blast doors, cutting off, the troopers, most of the troopers from them. And since the escape pods have been destroyed, Ahsoka says we should probably take a shuttle to get out of here. Rex asks Ahsoka if she's heard that Maul had also escaped, but Ahsoka tells him, oh, he didn't escape. I let him out.
I love how she says it. It's like real coy, just like she's walking away like it's no big deal. Oh, I let him out. And he's like, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Maul, nice segue, walking towards the hyperdrive room, and he still has that clone trooper's wrist comm, so he's listening to all the radio chatter, which I thought was a really nice job to kind of keep you up to date on what the clones are doing and where they're headed. Just kind of gave a nice little overall impression of what's going on. It wasn't just, Maul's point of view. We also got what the clones were doing.
Did you notice, guys, how Empire-like this engine room looked? Like just the design of it and the command area that Maul walks up to. I mean, it gave me some serious Empire vibes. So it almost was like, and I don't know if this is what the show is going for, but to me, I took it as it was like their subtle nod of, hey, letting you know that the Republic is becoming the Empire.
I like how Maul in this episode barely spoke. He was more action. He was listening to the band on the wrist, like you were talking about. And when he finally did speak, it was just to Ahsoka. Well, we'll get to that later. But no speaking, before that. It was all action. It was all, intent with this guy, this episode. I like that.
Yep. Then we hear over the radio that one of the clones is reporting to Jesse that Ahsoka has escaped. Jesse is asking about Rex and is told that he is missing in action. He asks if Rex has aided Ahsoka's escape, and they don't know. So, 2 troopers round the corner and train their guns at Maul, who lifts them into the air, choking them, which was such a badass scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a Sith Lord thing to do too. Just like instantly go for the Force choke. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, Ahsoka thought she was, handicapping him by not giving him his lightsaber back, but man, he made use of his gifts. And then we see Maul enters the hyperdrive room, and he just, quickly and violently starts dispatching all the clone troopers with the Force. He's just tearing through them. And then he lifts that controls console away, and then he uses the Force to start pulling the actual generators down. And you hear an officer tell the captain that the hyperdrive is failing, And then more troopers enter the hyperdrive room, but are crushed by the falling debris. And then the
So
vessel.
I love that, by the way, because that's like an ongoing thing with like all Star Wars like media where the hyperdrives fail. But this time it wasn't that, it was just like a mechanical thing. This is literally Maul tearing it apart. But I kind of like that because it makes you think of A New Hope with the Millennium Falcon's hyperdrive engine always failing, and it's just kind of funny.
You know what else it made me think of was the Return of the Jedi when the Millennium Falcon goes into the center of the Death Star. I mean, that room that looked a lot like the hyperdrive room from this Star Destroyer. And Maul's in there just destroying it with the Force. And like the Millennium Falcon fighters had to go in there and destroy it. They just could have brought Darth Maul in to destroy the place.
Right. Well, good point.
You know, it made sense too, because he didn't want to go back to Coruscant because Darth Sidious was there. So he was doing anything in his power to make sure that that vessel did not make it to its destination. Mm-hmm. And the vessel drops out of light speed right over a moon. And then we see Ahsoka and Rex enter a hangar control. They're stunning the officers, and Rex notes that the clones have anticipated all of their actions and have sealed the hangar bay doors and locked down all the systems. He notes that if they weren't trying to kill them, he'd be proud. Which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Ahsoka tells R7 to unlock the bay doors, Cheap to prep the shuttle, and Gigi to find out what happened to the hyperdrive. And then over the comlink, you hear Maul hears the clone. Over the comlink, Maul hears the clones report to Jesse that they think Ahsoka and Rex are heading to the hangar. Jesse tells them to assemble there, but to await his signal before acting. And then we see in the control room, Gigi tells Rex the hyperdrive has been completely destroyed, and he realizes the ship is caught in the gravity well of the nearby moon. Ahsoka tells R7 to open the doors as Jesse's troop converge on their location, followed by Maul. A bay door opens, revealing, that transport, and also 2 platforms of clone troopers who gather in formation below the observation windows. Rex is just fighting their way to the shuttle, but Ahsoka says there are too many of them and she doesn't want to hurt them. Rex says the clones don't care and are willing to die. Taking Ahsoka and Rex with them, Rex kind of falls silent. Ahsoka gently removes his helmet, revealing tears streaming down his cheeks. Ahsoka says he is a good soldier, but so are the troopers in the hangar, and they may be willing to die, but she is not going to be the one that kills them. Rex.
Great line. Awesome line.
This was just an all-around beautiful scene. So I took those tears 2 different ways. One, when she first removed his helmet, he kind of looked away from her. So I almost felt like maybe he felt a little bit of shame. But at the same time, it was he called them his brothers, like he's done multiple times. All the clones kind of do that with each other. They refer to each other as brothers. And even though he knows that right now they're basically the enemy, they're trying to kill them, he still recognizes the situation for what it is. And so again, just in the series, furthering to humanize the clones and make them people. He's sad at the loss of his brothers.
And he knows it's not their fault. This chip was implanted in them. They don't have free will like he does now. And then Rex asks if they're going to surrender, and Ahsoka tells him she thinks she has a good idea. And then a trooper tells Jesse that Maul is headed their way. And as Rex enters the hangar holding Ahsoka at gunpoint and telling them to hold their fire, Rex tells Jesse he has the situation under control, and Jesse says that he must follow orders and execute it, or he will do it. Rex reasons that Order 66 was to execute the Jedi, but Ahsoka is no longer a Jedi and hasn't been for a long time. The droids.
So you can tell that fans were involved in writing this, because it was like they wrote some of these lines in anticipation of what a fan might say or what a fan has already said. Because I remember when some of these episodes were first coming out, instantly online, people were saying, well, why would Rex call himself a captain in Rebels if he's promoted to commander? Or why did Yoda say that Luke was the last Jedi if Ahsoka's a Jedi? So it was kind of, I like how they made sure to kind of sort of fill in these gaps, sort of cover all their bases and be like, okay, look, we already know that you're going to ask it, so here's your answer.
Yep, they did a good job of that. And the droids are sneaking past, and Jesse says that Rex himself said Tano was to be executed by the order of Darth Sidious, and Rex attempts to appeal, his comradeship with Jesse, saying if they don't get this right, they will be the ones committing treason. Jesse doesn't fall for it, though, and accuses Rex of treason and against the Grand Army of the Republic, saying he will be demoted and executed for assisting the traitor Ahsoka. As Jesse orders his troops to take aim, the droids finish their work and the hangar elevators drop suddenly, knocking out most of the troopers. And Ahsoka and Rex start fighting off the remaining clones. And then Maul enters the hangar and is running towards the shuttle. Ahsoka starts pursuing him, but he pushes her into the pit. And although the one droid catches her with the grappling cable, Jesse and the troops wake up and start opening fire on Ahsoka and the droids.
So this is a scene that Dave was talking about. He had mentioned that Maul really doesn't say much in this episode, but he does say this one line to Ahsoka. And that was basically along the lines of, "You wanted chaos. Well, here you go."
Yeah. This is the chaos you wanted, I think was the line. And that shove her out of the way. And I thought the droid was having an extraordinarily hard time pulling her up. I mean, she doesn't seem like she'd be that heavy, but the droid was having trouble with it.
Well, that's not the droid's strength right there. He's good for communicating or something. But Maul takes off in the shuttle, and Ahsoka finally gets up and uses the Force to hold it in the hangar. As Rex attempts to hold them off, but R7 is shot and Rex is hit in the shoulder. Ahsoka lets go and Maul takes off into hyperspace. As the clones surround them, Ahsoka spins her lightsabers around, cutting a hole in the floor to the starship bay. Jesse orders his troops to blast them, but Gigi and Cheap raise the elevators again and are executed by the clones.
That was sad. I mean, I get that they're brainwashed and the chip is controlling their actions, but man, I mean, this series, making us feel for each one of these clones kind of makes you really feel for the droids too, and just to see them go out like that.
No, they
didn't pull any punches.
When they pointed their blasters at him, I was like, oh man, don't do it. But they did, and it definitely wasn't their fault. And then Rex and Ahsoka find an old Sol Y-wing bomber in working order. Ahsoka throws Rex onto the ship and attempts to leap herself, but the ship and Ahsoka fall out of the bay. And then Rex kind of gains control of the ship and sees Ahsoka falling alongside of him. And she's kind of bouncing off the wreckage and lands in the cockpit, or the droid pit, I suppose, as the Star Destroyer sinks below the clouds and Ahsoka just kind of stares into the sky.
So this whole time, during that free fall of when the when the Y-wing was going down, and I mean, okay, I know Ahsoka is going to survive. I've seen Rebels, I know it, but I was still screaming at the screen, screaming at the TV, get in there, what are you doing? Oh my God, use the Force, something. Just I was freaking out. It was really gripping.
She's gonna survive, we knew, but they still were able to bring it to that point where you're worried about it. That's some good writing. That's some good animation.
I mean, as the music is blaring, it's like it hits that crescendo, and you're just like, the tension is building, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I know what's going to happen, but I mean, what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah.
And then we kind of jump forward a little bit. It looks like Rex is gathering parts to repair the ship in R7, and he sees Ahsoka just in the distance wearing that cowl we see her in Rebels, and standing before the helmet marks graves of dozens of clone troopers. She kind of holds up her lightsaber and then drops it to the ground. And man, you talk about an emotional scene. Yeah. Seeing all those helmets, just like in a mass burial, with her kind of standing and paying, respect to them, that was just beautifully done.
And each one of them was an actual grave. They weren't like all just randomly put out there. Each helmet had a burial plot next to it. So they took the time to bury each one of them. And that's a lot about Rex.
Once again, these weren't just, robots or just nobodies. Each one was a person to Ahsoka and to Rex, Each one mattered.
Yeah, each one had their own name. Each one wasn't another person. They weren't just a bunch of clones. And And they really did a good job of emphasizing that in a scene without any talking over it. They just, I mean, the animation and the writing on that scene to play out the way it did was just perfect. And then we see the kind of wreckage kind of continue to lie where it's crashed. And eventually it's kind of covered by snow as time passes. And then sometime later during the, the height of the Empire, possibly, we see some snow troopers and probe droids come across the snow-bitten wreckage and come to search the area as a shuttle lands, a very familiar shuttle, lands near the crash site, and Darth Vader gets out of the shuttle and ominously walks across the icy fields. He kneels down and he's reaching through the snow and finding and igniting that lightsaber of Ahsoka's where she had left it. And then we see like a bird flying overhead, crying above, and Vader looks up to see it circling in the sky. And as he watches the bird for a moment, then he takes the saber and just kind of turns and walks away, and then reflected in the visor of a cracked helmet, belonging to one of the clone troopers who put Ahsoka's sort of face paint on there as basically the show ends. And it was just,
I mean, what a way to end it.
Yeah. Masterpiece. Yeah. And do you think at the end there that Darth Vader thinks, oh, she's gone? We were able to take her out.
I don't know. I think a part of him never really wanted to see, out of all the Jedi, I think there was a part of him that never really wanted to see her go, because even when he confronts her in Rebels, he doesn't seem to really want to fight her right away. He's kind of asking her to join him at first. And when she refuses, that's when he decides to fight her. But then when he's defeated, he cries out to her, Ahsoka. It was, yeah. I think a part of him is always going to, hold her in high regard. He really cared about her as his Padawan.
Yeah, it almost seemed like to me like she's kind of letting go of her connection to Anakin there, and leaving and moving on, and then he is still sort of holding on to it at that point. And it was just really well done. It really showed, because Ahsoka didn't only have a relationship with the clones, she also had a very good relationship with Anakin, and it kind of sort of had that bridge leading into the Empire, and Anakin being Darth Vader and hunting down Jedi. It was just really well done.
What I thought would have been kind of funny or cool at the end is if in James Earl Jones' voice, he says "snips" as he's holding the lightsaber.
That would have been kind of funny. But I'm glad that they left it, kind of sort of sad without any speaking. I'm glad they ended it the way that they did. I was talking to you guys earlier, and I had said that I was hoping that they would sort of recreate more scenes from Revenge of the Sith. I would have loved to see this, I'd love to see it redone right in the Clone Wars. But, I mean, again, I'm very happy with the way this ended. I thought it was really good, And so there was one thing that I did want to talk a little bit about. You had kind of briefly mentioned it, Keith, the bird that was flying overhead. So apparently that holds a little bit more significance. I thought it was unusual that they focused on it. I assume that whenever they focus on anything, like I had brought up with you guys earlier about that Y-Wing, I assume there must have been a reason why they held on to that shot for longer than a second. And it turns out, so this bird was actually, it was referenced a little bit earlier in the Clone Wars series, and it was also in Rebels. It's known as Morai or Morai. And I guess apparently it's attracted to Force users, and it'll watch over people with the Force. So the reason why they put it in here was it was, I guess, first off, kind of like a spirit animal for Ahsoka. And but at the same time, it was meant to represent the light side of the Force, kind of out of reach from Vader.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
deep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But okay, let's get to our reviews. Dave, you want to start us out?
Well, I didn't think that they were going to bring it back from the last episode to the level that they had before, but I think they did. They nailed it. This is a 10 for me. Excellent series ender. Everything you wanted happened in this show. Everything you knew was going to happen, it happened in the best way. I give it a 10.
Douglas?
Yeah, I absolutely have to agree with Dave. This is definitely a 10 for me. I think I would have even rated it an 11 out of 10 if they would have just done one thing. One thing that I was looking for specifically, I was kind of hoping that they would sort of recreate the hallway Vader scene, but with Maul. Like I wanted to hear them cut out the music and just hear the siren blaring as Maul is causing his chaos. That would have just put it over the edge for me. But um, the thing that really sold me on this episode was, like we had mentioned a couple of times, just a um, keeping it up with the overarching theme of the Clone Wars, humanizing the clones, reminding you that they're not just they're not like, you know, the stormtroopers or the droids that you see in like any other of the movies. They were important, and they were all people. They all had names. And the other thing that I absolutely loved was the music. The music in this entire episode just set it over the edge for me. It was beautiful. It was um, done by, you know, I wrote his name down and I forgot to bring it up. So it was Ken Kiner, I think was his name. So he is a composer who has done a lot of things for Star Wars. He's done Clone Wars and Rebels, and even worked on a couple of the movies and a couple of these other movies. He's actually done more composing for Star Wars than Williams did, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, pretty interesting. And George Lucas trusted him quite a bit, and I think he did a phenomenal job with this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with both of you on this. This is definitely a 10 out of 10. I mean, so many shows have failed in landing that series finale episode, and they just absolutely nailed it. I mean, we knew, you know, Ahsoka and Rex were going to survive. We knew Anakin was Darth Vader, but they just hit on every level on this. I mean, the way that Maul was wreaking havoc through the place, and it helped kind of Ahsoka and Rex get out, and just the fact that, like Doug talked about, all the little things like people saying, well, he called himself a captain in Rebels. You know, they kind of addressed that. He got demoted for his treason. And the music, the emotion, and the way they played that final scene with, you know, Ahsoka standing in front of the graves of all of her, you know, comrades in arms, all of the clones, was just so well done. And I like had to just pause it and take a moment there for myself when I was watching it, because I did not expect to feel that much. I mean, they took everything that's built up over these 7 years and just perfectly placed everyone where they had to be, and actually made this show even that much better, having done such great service to all of the characters within it. And, you know, I was looking at it, I was thinking about it too as an arc, because pretty much the first 2 episodes were, you know, now they're 10 out of 10s. And the second or the third episode of this arc, you know, it was kind of a little less. I think I gave it a 7.9, but this arc as a whole is perfect. I mean, they did nothing wrong. Everything they had to hit, they nailed it. And I am so happy for having watched it. But what do you guys all think? I mean, are you guys feeling the same thing? Did this go out on an absolute high note, or are you guys kind of disappointed